Hi, I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us. Kristen Oaks White has the week off. We begin with news for Louisiana's crawfish farmers. Governor Jeff Landry signed an executive order on March 6 declaring a disaster for the crawfish aquaculture industry. According to a press release, Governor Landry did so at the request of Congressman Clay Higgins and Troy Carter. The goal of this state disaster declaration is to assist in securing federal resources. Currently, there is no USDA program that provides aid to crawfish due to drought. To change that, U.S. Representative Julia Letlow and Senator John Kennedy have each introduced bills in their respective chambers to direct USDA to provide help to Louisiana's crawfish industry. We'll continue to follow this story. Multiple times a year, Louisiana Farm Bureau staff and volunteers travel to Washington, D.C. to represent farmers and ranchers across the state. The hope is to create a better future for the ag industry. As TWILA's Josh Meeks shows us, 8 young farmers and ranchers recently met with congressional staff in the U.S. House and Senate discussing their challenges and successes.
There are thousands of moving parts in the federal government, each one having an impact on the next and so on, until it reaches the end result, in this case, the average farmer. These young farmers and ranchers from across Louisiana are hoping to change out some of those moving parts to make a better end result for all in agriculture.
My problems on my farm is not the problems on my neighbor's farm. They may have some different problem, and maybe we can't all get together at the same time.
This group headed to Washington, D.C. to meet with 6 of Louisiana's 8 congressional delegates. Each one has a different story to share.
The FSA loans, the EM loans.
You know, we had a rough year with the drought.
The last thing we want is to tell them, I'm sorry, but we can't afford to pay you anymore.
For the Lees of Vermilion Parish, they've had to greatly cut back on the number of H-2A workers they can hire, all because of a program that was initially designed to secure those workers' wages.
So instead of the intended effect of 7 people getting a raise, 5 people are probably going to lose their job and be replaced by a piece of equipment, which is not what anybody wants to see, because we know these men. We've brought them back year after year.
For the Duncans of Rapides Parish, their struggle is over federal mandates on tagging animals, designed to track any outbreaks of infectious diseases.
It's for the better traceability. We need to know, if something happens, we need to know where it came from. But we got to go about it the right way. If you're going to tell us we need to do something, we need a little help doing it.
For the Gerasses of St. Landry Parish, they traveled to shine a light on an emergency loan program that's so backed up it could take over a year to get money.
I was told that it was going to take a lot of time before I may even see a dollar. My bills are due now. You worry every day. It's like, should I spend this money on this personal thing? My kids playing after school sports. That's something that we had to really consider. Like, do I spend $100 on my kids going to play baseball?
These concerns don't fall on deaf ears. Just hours after speaking with the House Ag Committee, the Gerasses were told the committee would look into the backlog of emergency loans to speed up the process.
And this is not over and done with. It's not a one-stop shop. It's a constant evolution. There's always going to be another farm bill. There's always going to be more appropriations. It's a constant ongoing thing, which is why Farm Bureau needs to continue its back and forth trips to Washington, D.C. to enact these changes. From Washington, D.C. for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Josh Meeks.
Preparing farmers and ranchers to discuss their issues directly with members of Congress and their staffers is a goal of Farm Bureau. While those young farmers and ranchers know how things work on their farm, it helps to arm them with knowledge about how Washington, D.C. works. That's where members of the Farm Bureau staff come in. When Robert and Rachel Duncan walk through their soybean fields in Boyce, Louisiana with their daughters, they know agriculture policy established more than 1,000 miles away in Washington, D.C. keeps their farm profitable. That's why the Duncans, along with other members of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Young Farmers and Ranchers Committee, spend time at American Farm Bureau to learn about the issues facing agriculture. With a debate on a new farm bill starting soon, AFBF Director of Government Affairs Joe Gilson lets them know why their voice is especially important this year.
Louisiana punches way above its weight in political power, especially in the ag community. So Louisiana Farm Bureau members can really have a big say in if this farm bill gets done.
The message these young farmers and ranchers are encouraged to carry is get a farm bill done soon.
Speaker Johnson just came out and said we need to get a farm bill done in March. And Farm Bureau, we want to get that done and do everything we can to help him get that farm bill done in March. If it slips too far past March, we're going to run into election year politics, and We have members who will go back to their district and campaign. But right now, this spring, we do have a window to get a farm bill done.
Another place these farmers and ranchers need Congress to take action is concerning labor. Under the current adverse effect wage rate, farmers must pay H-2A workers who only do farm work $14.53 an hour. That rate goes up if that worker drives a truck. John Walt Boatwright focuses on labor and says that rule has already put some farmers out of business. American Farm Bureau wants Congress to pause the rate at 2023 levels and then repeal the Department of Labor rule establishing the adverse effect wage rate. Boatwright says Louisiana is positioned to make that happen.
Louisiana, unlike any other state, has a real opportunity here. You have senior members in the House leadership, Speaker Johnson, Leader Scalise. You have 2 senators who have prime committee slots in the Labor Committee on the Senate side and the Appropriations Committee. And you just generally have strong advocates on behalf of Louisiana agriculture. This makes Louisiana in a prime spot to really deliver a message that can help drive home the point that we need these ag labor fixes now, and we've got to deliver a win for those Louisiana farm families.
If you would like to learn more about the Louisiana Farm Bureau Young Farmers and Ranchers program, visit our website at twilatv.org. Oh, and to keep up with what's going on with agriculture in D.C., follow TWILA and Louisiana Farm Bureau on social media. You just saw Louisiana Farm Bureau members in action in our nation's capital, but it's the action of our members of Congress that can really make a difference. One of those members making a difference is Louisiana 5th District Congresswoman Julia Letlow. Louisiana Farm Bureau President Jim Harper and American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall presented Congresswoman Letlow with the Golden Plow Award on March 5th. The Golden Plow Award is the highest honor Farm Bureau gives a sitting member of Congress for being a champion for agriculture.
I am so thrilled. I am humbled. I feel a bit undeserving, but I am just so excited to be given that prestigious award. The Farm Bureau has been an incredible resource to me since I've come to Congress a little over 3 years ago. It's been the honor of my lifetime to advocate for ag issues, and they have really been a huge partner in informing me on how I can best do that.
It is really a thrill for me. Julia is my Congresswoman. She has been on my farm many times, and I know she gets it when it comes to agriculture, and Louisiana is just thrilled that she has won this award.
Congresswoman Letlow sits on the House Appropriations Committee and is on the Agriculture Subcommittee for Appropriations. That is a very important spot to ensure programs in the Farm Bill are funded. For many years now, Louisiana Farm Bureau has taken farmers and ranchers to neighboring states to learn about the cattle industry in other corners of the country. It started years ago with a trip to Texas and has included trips to Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, and South Florida. This year, the group has returned to Florida. TWILA's Karl Wiggers takes us along for the ride.
I'm here at Whitehurst Cattle Company just outside of Gainesville, Florida, with around 20 other cattlemen and women from Louisiana. And we are here taking a closer look at the livestock industry in northern Florida. And it's been a great trip so far. We're finishing up day 2 of 3 days here, and it's really been a great trip so far. We spent the first day looking into the University of Florida research programs, especially with their animal science program, from selecting the right genetics all the way to processing and beef grading. From the classroom to the farm, these Louisiana cattle producers learned a lot about the extension and research work that happens here in Florida. I visited with Amelia Kent, chair of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation Livestock Advisory Committee, during one of those stops on the tour. She is excited for the research and extension heavy day here on the beef tour, especially so for those that are on the trip who work with the LSU Ag Center in the similar roles as we've discussed today.
Today is really the first of all of the tours collectively where we spent an entire day looking at the academic or institutional system, and it's really a testament to how proactive the University of Florida system is and is doing the research and giving back to the agriculture industry as a whole. And I am really excited with where LSU Ag Center is right now and see so much opportunity, and I'm glad for the collaboration and opportunity to visit.
Today has been much more focused on getting out of the city of Gainesville, getting to the countryside and seeing some farms and ranches a little bit further from the city and seeing where a lot of that research we talked about yesterday is being applied here on the farms. And it's beautiful, beautiful scenery, beautiful cows behind me. We've dodged most of the weather So we're really excited about that. I personally, as it is now 4:30, am very excited about dinner tonight. It's going to be at the Florida Farm Bureau State Office. And on that note, I want to say a quick thank you to all of our friends at Florida Farm Bureau who helped make this trip possible. I had nothing to do with planning it, but I've heard it every stop, every step of the way. We've been thanking Florida Farm Bureau for their work because they've made a lot of this happen for us, and it's been a huge help to us and to our farmers and ranchers who are on this trip. So thank you guys so much. If you enjoy this content, we'll have more stories from this tour in the next couple weeks here on TWILA. Until then, I'm Karl Wiggers reporting from Williston, Florida for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
Looks like a fun trip, Karl. Planning is already underway for the next trip. If you'd like to be included, contact your local Farm Bureau office and get plugged into the Louisiana Farm Bureau Livestock Advisory Committee. Some sweet news for Louisiana sugarcane farmers. Exports for the 2024 fiscal year are expected to hit a 6-year high. According to the USDA, that number will top 160,000 short tons of raw value. 88% of that will head to Mexico, where their sugar production is at a 15-year low. Mexico's numbers have been declining since the dissolving of the North American Free Trade Agreement. The U.S. increased its sugar exports to Mexico in the last 2 years as the southern country fought drought and reduced fertilizer use. Looking ahead to future weather across the state, we're not quite ready to say farewell to winter just yet. Meteorologist Nick Mikulis with Sinlaw Weather joins us now with our new segment, Farmer's Forecast. Nick?
Thank you all so much. I wanted to introduce myself to everyone. First off, my name is Nick Mikulis. I've lived in Alexandria for 22 years, and I've been a meteorologist that entire time. I graduated from the University of Missouri and came straight down to Alexandria. I did the TV thing for a while, then I got out of the business, but I've always continued that passion for meteorology and anything that's going on in the sky. So if you have any questions for me, if you have any specifics that perhaps I didn't hit in this show, you can send me an email there at nick@senlawweather.com, and I will get you set up. Let's jump in, take a look at the upcoming headlines for the week ahead. It looks like a dry start, but rain chances are going to increase late this week, and that means that most of the state is going to see 1 to 3 inches of rainfall, possibly some isolated higher totals out there, and temperatures are going to stay above freezing. So it looks like we will get cool across the northern part of the state, but it looks like we stay above 40 degrees for most areas. Now, rain over the last year, it's been tough to come by here. We've recovered somewhat over the winter, but you can see here, this is why we're still in a drought in part of the state, with some areas right through the middle of Louisiana seeing only about 70% of normal over the last year. So it looks like we do have more help on the way, and this drought monitor that has been freshly updated this week shows that moderate drought continuing right through Vernon, parts of Rapides, Grant, Catahoula, Concordia Parish, as well as LaSalle. That is hopefully going to shrink up here as we get into the next few weeks, and you can see the precipitation outlook through the middle part of the month. It looks like we are going to see plenty of rainfall. Like I said, I think 1 to 3 inches out of this next round that's going to come through, and that's mainly going to be Thursday through Saturday, depending on where you are in the state, and it looks like we could see a few severe thunderstorms attached to that as well. And like I said, we're not looking for any frost or freeze issues, as we are going to stay above normal here for the middle of the month. So it looks like we're going to see temperatures above freezing. It looks like we're going to see perhaps some highs approaching 80 degrees as we start to warm up as we head towards spring. That's it for me right now. I'll send things back over to y'all.
Thanks, Nick. Happy to have you on board. Still to come on TWILA, it seems like a quick, easy job, but climbing into a grain bin can be deadly. We'll look at the statewide outreach program spreading awareness. And later, more than a 1 in a million shot. We'll introduce you to this calf who defied all odds.
You're watching This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week.
Agriculture continues to be one of the most dangerous jobs in America. We had a stark reminder of that just a couple of weeks ago when a St. Landry Parish man lost his life after getting trapped in a grain bin. That's why the Louisiana Farm Bureau has been hosting grain bin safety workshops for farmers and first responders over the last 11 years. Keely Ana Strickland attended one of those workshops in Melville to see how they're making safety a priority.
Across the state, over 300 farmers and first responders were trained on the risks and safety precautions concerning grain bins. Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation partnered with Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation to host a series of grain bin safety workshops. For the past 50 years, the fatality rate associated with working in and around grain bins was around 60%. As of 2022, the fatality rate is 36%. These workshops aim to aid in continuing the decline.
Can't get careless. That's when accidents happen. You know, I literally grew up in the grain bin.
While it's a situation that doesn't happen often, a seemingly small mistake can be the difference between life or death. Vincent Canatella is the owner and operator of Canatella Outdoors Farms, and he is grateful that Farm Bureau continues to host these valuable trainings.
An accident like that could happen to me in a heartbeat if I just get careless. You forget one thing. You think you're doing it right, and you step left when you should have stepped right.
A grain bin accident could happen to anyone, so it's important that first responders are trained on how to perform a grain bin rescue. Joseph Ashcraft is a firefighter operator for St. Landry Fire Protection District No. 1. He participated in the rescue portion of the training and experienced a grain entrapment in a controlled space. In a tank, grain is like quicksand. Once you're up to your knees, the intense pressure makes it impossible to rescue yourself.
Being in that situation, you're stuck. You can't move, the more you fight, the more you sink. So it's very weird. Even though I know it's controlled and I know that, I'm gonna be taken out, it's still very weird.
In just a few seconds, farmers or workers can become trapped in grain just like I am. But thanks to programs like these, first responders now have the training to respond to accidents on farms across Louisiana. After participating in this workshop, Ashcraft and numerous other first responders now feel better equipped to perform a grain bin rescue.
Even though it's just a basic knowledge, it's a knowledge of something. It's better than nothing.
LFBF Safety Director Wendell Miley is working to equip farmers with the means to prevent themselves from becoming part of that statistic.
Sometimes safety is hard to measure, but at the end of the day, like we just said, if we know that from what we're doing in our department, preaching the safety message, whether it's this program, whether it's tractor safety, whether it's going out and doing an ATV safety program, if we can save one life by what we do with our education, that's all worth it for me, and I'll always stand by that.
Reporting from Melville, Louisiana for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Keely Ana Strickland.
The Louisiana Farm Bureau Safety Department is finding out which fire departments and grain storage facilities have grain bin rescue tubes and where they're located. That's so first responders can see who has them and which is the closest if there is a flowing grain entrapment. More than 130 animals were showcased at this year's annual Livestock Show at Southern University. The university's School of Agriculture encouraged children to come out by loaning animals to help springboard them into the ag world. This is Southern University's 81st year hosting the Livestock Show. For many of these youngsters, this is their first glimpse into this world, like Aria Wilson, whose dad brought her a steer named Kenny.
I love having fun with them, and I love coming back and forth from the barn.
They've worked, most of them, for a year or better to be here with these animals, and every hand clap makes a difference, every handshake makes a difference, so showing these students support.
Even though it's her first year, Aria says she wants to someday win Grand Champion. Congratulations to everyone who competed there at Southern University. Still to come on TWILA, it's a brewery, a farm, a restaurant, and an art gallery. Neil Melancon takes us to St. Gabriel for a pint or two. When you go to a restaurant, you expect to see your food, but it's not often you get to see where it's raised. As TWILA's Neil Melancon tells us, at Istrouma Eatery and Brewery, you can do both at the same time.
Tucked away south of Baton Rouge is Istrouma Eatery and Brewery at Sugar Farms. It's a mouthful, but that's by design. Owner John Haynes and his wife both come from farming backgrounds. While they both went to school for something else, they both wanted to come back to the farm.
My wife and I both are fourth generation cattle farmers on both sides, and so we love being on the farm. It's a lot of responsibility, it's tough work, but it's something that we wanted to be able to share with other people.
John's background is in the arts, which is proudly displayed at Istrouma. You can tell through the canvas he never truly left the farm.
I was a professional painter for many years, shared my work in galleries around the country. My wife was the marketing arm, I was the painter. Then we got into film and entertainment, where we did documentaries and corporate films and that kind of thing. Did that for many years. But, you know, there's something about ag that just doesn't, it just stays in your blood.
It can be hard to tell the farm and the restaurant apart. Right outside the doors, they raise some of the products they use inside.
We have, on one of our pizzas, we have what we call a figgy piggy. And so we have our figs. We have many fig trees on the farm. We have some of our citrus on the farm. We're doing a lot of our herbs. We have a farmerita pizza that we grow our own basil for.
They also have a wide selection of beer on tap. That said, it's still a family atmosphere here, which is something carefully cultivated.
We didn't want to have like a bar that was just for adults. And so it's a part of that culture of building a culture that welcomes the kids. You know, we have one of my neighbors down the street. This is his discipline. In other words, he tells the kids, if you are not good this week, I'm not taking you to Istrouma to get a pizza. You know, and I'm like, I love it.
And even with a ready-made market, it's still not easy to farm, John says. The drought this summer was difficult on the pastures, and the recent rains have been a challenge for his animals.
I think I'll always walk around with an orange cone, work in progress, but I think that that's a part of it. I had a farmer buddy of mine one time tell me when we first bought the farm, he said, you'll never, ever get the farm to exactly where you want it to be. So you have to enjoy that process.
Every day, though, the work of tending the land calls John to this life.
George Washington Carver was a famous farmer, and one of his scriptures was, speak to nature, and you will learn by speaking to nature. In other words, being in nature and praying, what is it that I can learn from this plant, this animal? And it's amazing what I've learned just being on the farm every day.
Whatever you're looking for here at Istrouma or Sugar Farms, it's likely you'll find some direction. And with their commitment to community, sustainability, and fresh ag products, they'll likely be here for a long time to come. Reporting from St. Gabriel, Louisiana, I'm Neil Melancon.
Istrouma Eatery and Brewery is open Thursday through Sunday, and much of its menu is online. If you want to check it out, you can find a link on our website at twilatv.org. In pop culture, Two-Face is a Batman villain. In Acadiana, it's a calf. And because she's Cajun, this Two-Face is actually de face. Get it? French for two. The rare two-faced calf was born at Bro Farms near Kaplan earlier this month. A calf like this only comes around about once out of every 400 million births. They're caring for Duface around the clock, and we're told she's getting stronger every day. She needs a harness to help move around because of the extra weight, but she is starting to stand up on her own. Bro Farms says they appreciate the public's support, but they're not allowing visitors at this time. They continue to post regular updates on the farm's Facebook page. Well, that does it for this edition of TWILA. Be sure to join us next week when we'll see more from Florida for the Louisiana Farm Bureau Livestock Advisory Committee Beef Tour. Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org, and be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find all of these stories and more on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you know when we put something new out. For all of us here at TWILA, thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again right here next week.